The beginning of America.
Steps, this is their steps.
Referring to them as being Scotch, they like being called Scots. So I think that's that where it comes from. But as far as historically, I don't think that there was any necessarily stigma attached to that. I think they just use Scotch and Scots. They use both terms, and I've got several different references to this, and I've got some more later on where they're using that term. So basically, that just means somebody who came from the Ulster region. All right, so now some of the characteristics of these people. Okay, so we were saying before they're non-Catholic. So these were from the Protestant area of Ulster, Northern Ireland. They came in family groups, so there's the clans. They retained their cultural identity long after leaving Ireland, which there's kind of a weird thing involved with that too. They conflicted with the established groups. So if you think about the colonial coast, you have Puritans, Quakers, all these established groups. So think about that. If you were established Puritans from the 1620 or 16 whatever, and then you have these Ulster Irish coming in. You're not going to like it. Maybe the Scots Irish are okay with integrating other groups into them, but you're not okay with that. And so they were kind of repulsed from that. And so what ended up happening was that they ended up coming straight into the American frontier, a lot of them. Now, of course, we're talking about broad strokes here. We're not talking about looking at each individual. We're talking about hundreds of thousands. But what happened was that even though, some of them did stay in those areas, that a lot of them ended up going into the Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia frontier. All right, now, where are we right now? We are on the Virginia-Kentucky frontier right now. So guess what? A lot of those people that are involved there are what we would call Scots-Irish. So even though there was a lot of different cultures involved, you had Germans, Africans, others coming in here. But at the same time, that Scots-Irish was very, very strong, and a lot of them were the leaders. Okay, so one of the things that happened was this served as a buffer for these eastern colonies from the wilderness and from the Indians. And so what happened to them here? They faced a lot of adversity, starvation, harsh weather, Indian attacks. And so, again, they were in a tough border region. But guess what? These were the people that was in their blood, and they knew how to handle this. So, a lot of times you can look at it different ways. One time I was talking with a fellow who was talking about how, like Daniel Boone, for instance, all the harsh things that happened to him, how he lost so many family members, and a lot of them were things where maybe he made a mistake or made a decision that caused problems. I mean, this up here gave him a lot of grief. He led these people to Blue Licks to drain the salt out of the mineral water, and ended up getting 30-some captured, and some of those were in captivity for a long time, and some of them hated him because of that. But what he ended up doing was he basically decided that when he ran into 100 Indians, and they basically said, okay, you have two choices. You can either give up your guys, or we will massacre them. And he decided that 100 Indians attacking them, that there would be more of them that would die at that point than if he put them into captivity. So he got promises from them, and actually it worked out pretty well to a certain extent. And so a lot of them ended up, getting back. But think about that. What if he's, what he's saying? What if, okay, maybe I should have been putting out scouts so that they discovered this, the Indians beforehand. Maybe we should have fought. Maybe it would have been better to get it over with. So there's a lot of these people went through, even though they may have had, 10 or 15 kids, it's hard to lose a child, whether it's your only child or whether it's, number 9. That kind of thing is tough, especially if it was a mistake you made. I know that I have regrets over decisions that I have made. My family talks about how many pets that I have killed accidentally, but things just happen, and you end up killing a beloved pet, and it's tough. So anyway, these they didn't have a desire to be ethnic. So here's where you have kind of a strange thing going on. They weren't really defined by their ethnic identity. They were just Americans. And so if they would call themselves anything, they wouldn't really think of themselves as Scots-Irish. That was something more other groups would use to identify them, but they would just call themselves Irish if they called themselves anything. And so there where it's kind of confusing, because how do you tell if somebody came from the Ulster region or from the rest of Ireland, especially a couple hundred years later when things are all kind of mixed in. You have a lot of Irish coming from different regions. So I think that's one reason why we're kind of confused about it, because we Scots-Irish think of ourselves as we're just Americans. And we realize we have some kind of Irish or Scottish ancestry or English, but we don't exactly understand it. But because we're just Americans, we are what America is. And
and what this is a piece of hardened steel, and this is a piece of flint that was sharp. It needs to be sharp, and what you're trying to do is jerk a spark off here to get your char cloth going. Char cloth is something they would have had. They'd had something really similar to this, and char cloth is put in a tin can and it's broke down, it's carbonized to where it will accept a spark pretty easy. That's what you're after. Just watch what it does. I usually just lay it up here and let everybody just watch what it does. This stuff is different than anything else that you'll see. It's, you ever heard that old saying, wind is your friend? The more oxygen gets on this, the better off it does. Now, kitchen match or anything else, I'm all the time trying to do this, trying to protect it to keep it from going out. This I like for the wind to hit it, and when it gets hot, it gets just like an ember.
That little spark, shut that off then?
The wind will set it off if it get enough wind.
That's better than magnesium.
How did they carbonize the cloth? They put it in smoke?
How did they carbonize it?
Yeah.
They put it in a tin can.
And that carbonized it? Oh, cool.
What kind of time frame?
Wow. Look at that bear skin. All these old supplies. Touching that bear's skin, huh?
In case I ever come across a bear, I'll know what it is.
Yeah. Hey, when did pioneers have that? Wow.
Hey, who you think you're looking at? You don't want the trouble, buddy.
Well, this is history back in the day. Would you like to live back into the day, you know, when the country's first started?
I would like some of it, and I wouldn't like some of it.
Yeah, you'd have to do everything by scratch. Cakes and food.
Yeah. I guess you get used to it after a while.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's time to go.
Want me to take some photos of you?
Nah, I'm good.
I only got one picture of you.
That's okay.